I miss the days when I saw my grandkids. Lily showing me new chess moves, Noah begging for one more push on the swing, their warm hugs. Then my daughter-in-law coldly declared, "If you want to see my children, pay $4,000 a month, or stay the hell away from them forever." I just smiled calmly, handed her a heavy package and said, "Here." She tore it open, and within seconds screamed in pure shock before fainting right on the floor. Before continuing, subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is in your region right now. My name is Raymond Phillips. I'm 68 years old, living in Eugene, Oregon. Spent 43 years as a state auditor before retiring. Numbers and documents became second nature. Always thought family was everything. Turned out some people put a price tag on that too. My son Kevin is 38 now. I still remember him as a kid, running to meet me when I came home from work, his face lighting up. "Dad! Dad! Look what I built!" He'd show me some Lego creation, so proud. Those days feel like someone else's life now. Everything changed when he met Danielle 6 years ago. Don't get me wrong, she was charming. Beautiful smile, quick wit, the kind of woman who lights up a room. My wife Sarah loved her right away. "She's perfect for Kevin," Sarah would say. If only she'd lived to see how wrong we both were. Danielle is 36, works part-time at a marketing firm, though I've never been quite sure what she actually does there. In the beginning, she was warm, called me Dad Phillips with genuine affection, brought homemade cookies when they visited, asked about my coin collection, actually seemed interested when I'd show her a rare quarter or an old Indian head penny. But looking back, I see it now. The way her eyes would glaze over when I wasn't offering something. The way her smile would sharpen when money came up. 2 years ago, Sarah passed. Heart attack, sudden, no warning. One morning she was planting her garden. The next, she was gone. Kevin and Danielle were supportive at first. They moved into the house on Willow Creek Road, the one I'd helped them buy. Actually, let me be precise about that, since precision matters in what came next. I didn't just help. I paid the full $340,000. Cash. They were struggling. Kevin's job as an IT manager wasn't paying enough, and Danielle's income was sporadic. I wanted my grandkids, Lily 7 and Noah 5, to grow up in a good neighborhood, good schools. Seemed like the right thing to do. The first few months after Sarah died, Danielle was attentive. Too attentive, actually. "You shouldn't be alone, Dad Phillips. Come have dinner with us. Stay the weekend." At the time, I thought it was kindness. I was drowning in grief, and having Lily climb into my lap with a picture book, or Noah asking me to push him on the swing, those moments kept me breathing. But gradually things shifted. Small things at first. A canceled visit here, a rescheduled dinner there. "Sorry, Dad. Danielle's not feeling well. The kids have activities. It's just not a good weekend." The warmth in Kevin's voice started fading, replaced by something careful, rehearsed. When I'd call, I could hear Danielle in the background, her tone sharp, even when I couldn't make out the words. Then came the gift expectations. Last Christmas, I bought Lily and Noah educational toys, a telescope for Noah, a beginner's chess set for Lily. Good gifts, thoughtful. When they opened them, the kids were excited, but I caught Danielle's expression, mouth tight, eyes cold. Later, Kevin called. "Dad, Danielle mentioned..." Well, she thought maybe cash would be more practical, for the kids' college funds. Translation: Danielle wanted money, not Grandpa's old-fashioned ideas about learning. I started noticing other things. When I'd visit, Danielle would stay in another room, making a show of being busy. The kids would start coming toward me, then glance back at their mother, uncertain. Once, I brought cookies. Sarah's recipe, the one Lily used to beg for. Danielle thanked me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, and I later learned from Kevin, threw them out. "Too much sugar for the kids," she'd said. But I'd seen the premium ice cream in their freezer just the week before. Visits became something I had to schedule days in advance. "We need notice, Dad. We have busy lives." When I'd arrive, there was always a time limit. "We have dinner plans in an hour." The kids started looking confused when I'd leave so quickly. "Why can't Grandpa stay?" Lily asked once. Danielle's answer was smooth. "Grandpa has his own life, sweetie." 3 months ago, it got worse. I called to arrange my weekly visit. I'd been coming every Saturday, my one reliable piece of joy. Kevin answered, his voice strained. Dad, we need to talk about boundaries. Boundaries. That word came up a lot suddenly. Danielle feels like we need more space as a family. Maybe every other week instead? I agreed. What else could I do? But every other week became every 3 weeks, then once a month. Each time, there was a reason. The kids are overwhelmed with school. We're focusing on family time, just us. I bit my tongue because apparently I wasn't family anymore. 2 weeks ago, I tried calling on a Tuesday evening. Kevin's phone went to voicemail. I called the house line. Yes, I'm old-fashioned enough to insist they keep one. Danielle answered. Her voice was pleasant, but there was steel underneath. Oh, Raymond, what do you need? Raymond, not Dad Phillips, not even Dad. I was hoping to take the kids to Hendricks Park this weekend. The maple trees are beautiful right now. That's not going to work. No explanation. Maybe Sunday then? Raymond, she sighed like I was a particularly slow student. I think we need to have an honest conversation. Kevin's too soft-hearted to say it, but this constant pressure about seeing the kids, it's not healthy. My hand tightened on the phone. Pressure, I'm their grandfather. Exactly. And grandparents have a role. But that role needs to respect our parenting decisions. What decisions? I'm asking to see them, not raise them. Another sigh. This is exactly what I mean. You don't respect boundaries. Every visit disrupts their routine. They get attached, then you leave, and they're emotional for days. I actually laughed. Couldn't help it. They're emotional because they miss me. That's called love, Danielle. The temperature in her voice dropped 20 degrees. Well, if you care so much about their well-being, perhaps you should contribute more substantially to their upbringing. There it was. Finally, the truth, naked and ugly. I paid for your house, I said quietly. That was a gift. We're talking about ongoing expenses. Childcare, activities, food, clothes. It all adds up. If you want to be part of their lives, you should invest in their lives. My auditor brain cataloged everything in that moment. Her tone, her word choice, the careful way she was building her case. This wasn't spontaneous. She'd rehearsed this. How much? I asked. I think $4,000 a month is fair, for nanny services, activities, and general expenses. If you can commit to that, we can arrange regular visitation. $4,000, monthly, to see my own grandchildren. I sat there in my quiet apartment, looking at the photos of Lily and Noah on my mantel. Noah's gap-toothed grin, Lily's serious face as she arranged her first chess pieces. The silence stretched. I need to think about it, I finally said. Of course, but Raymond, until we have an agreement, I think it's best if you keep your distance. We don't want to confuse the children. She hung up. No goodbye. Just click, dial tone, nothing. I stood there for a long time, phone in hand, something cold and sharp forming in my chest. It wasn't heartbreak anymore. It was something else entirely. Something Danielle was going to regret teaching me. I didn't sleep that night. Kept replaying the conversation, hearing that casual cruelty in Danielle's voice. $4,000. Like I was negotiating a business contract, not asking to hug my grandkids. The next morning, I tried calling Kevin, straight to voicemail. Tried again that afternoon. Same thing. On the third day, he finally answered, his voice careful. Hey, Dad. Kevin, we need to talk about what Danielle said. I know. Look, I understand it sounds harsh, but we really are struggling financially. The kids' activities alone cost. Your mother and I raised you on less than half what you make. Don't give me that. Things are different now, Dad. Everything costs more. And Danielle has a point about boundaries. You can be intense. Intense. That stung more than I expected. I'm intense because I love you. All of you. I know, but maybe some space would be good for everyone. He was parroting her words. I could hear it. My son, the one who used to tell me everything, had become someone else's mouthpiece. Did you know about the $4,000? Hesitation. We discussed it. It's not just about money, Dad. It's about mutual respect. If you're serious about being involved, showing financial commitment demonstrates that. Financial commitment. I'd given them a house. I'd paid for a kitchen renovation when theirs flooded. I'd covered 3 months of mortgage when Kevin lost his job in 2022, but apparently that didn't count. I need time to think, I said. Sure, take your time. Just maybe give us some space while you decide. He hung up quickly. Too quickly. Like someone was listening. Over the next week, Danielle sent text messages. Professional, polite, and absolutely venomous in their courtesy. Hi, Raymond. Just checking in on your decision. The kids ask about you. Then 2 days later, Raymond, we really need your answer. It's unfair to leave this hanging. And finally, I need a commitment by the end of the month. Otherwise, I'll have to make other arrangements. Other arrangements, meaning I'd be cut off completely. I didn't respond. Instead, I did what I do best. I went into analysis mode, started thinking about the situation like an audit. When you're looking for fraud, you follow the money. You look for patterns. You check the documentation. Something was wrong here. The escalation was too quick, too calculated. Danielle hadn't stumbled into this demand. She'd planned it. But why? They weren't struggling that badly. Kevin made decent money. Danielle had her part-time job. The house was paid for, so no mortgage. Then I ran into Tom Henderson, their neighbor on Willow Creek. I'd been avoiding that street, but I needed to drop off some mail that had come to my old address. Raymond, Tom called from his yard. Haven't seen you around much. Been giving the family space, I said, trying to keep it light. Tom's expression shifted. Uncomfortable. Yeah. Listen, I don't know what's going on between you all, but Danielle's been saying some things. My stomach tightened. What kind of things? That you're being difficult about helping out. That you're wealthy but won't support your own grandkids. He looked embarrassed. She made it sound like you're some kind of miser. Even mentioned you'd refuse to help with medical bills. Medical bills. There'd been no medical bills. She told the whole neighborhood that? Book club, HOA meeting. She's got this way of making it sound concerned, you know. I just worry about the kids having a relationship with their grandfather when he's so focused on money. Tom grimaced. I figured there was more to the story. There was definitely more to the story, and suddenly I understood. Danielle wasn't just manipulating me, she was building a narrative, making me the villain. When I pushed back or refused her demands, she'd already poisoned the well. Everyone would think I was the unreasonable one. That's when something shifted in me. The hurt, the confusion, the desperate need to fix things, all of it crystallized into something harder, colder. I'd spent 4 decades auditing people who thought they were clever, people who manipulated numbers, moved money, created elaborate stories to cover their tracks. I knew every trick, and Danielle had just picked the wrong mark. I went home and did what I should have done weeks ago. Went to my filing cabinet, yes, I still keep physical copies of important documents, and pulled out the folder labeled Kevin House. Inside was everything from the purchase, the contract, the deed transfer paperwork, the promissory notes. Wait. I sat down hard, staring at the document in my hand. The deed transfer had never been completed. Kevin was supposed to pay me $1, literally a symbolic transfer, and maintain regular family contact. Those were the conditions for the gift. We'd signed the preliminary agreement, but the final transfer required both conditions met and a formal filing. Kevin had never paid the $1, and regular family contact had certainly been broken. Legally, technically, according to the documentation, I still owned that house. I started laughing. Couldn't help it. It started as a chuckle and built into something bigger, echoing in my quiet apartment. All this time, Danielle had been playing power games with my grandchildren, using my own generosity as a weapon, thinking she held all the cards. She didn't even own the table we were playing on. I pulled out more files. Every check I'd written to Kevin and Danielle. Every transfer. And there, promissory notes. I'd insisted on them, even for family. Just a formality, I'd told Kevin. So we have records for tax purposes. He'd signed them without really thinking about it. Standard documents saying the money was a loan, to be repaid upon request or upon sale of assets. $127,000 in documented loans. I sat there surrounded by papers, my auditor's mind already building the strategy. Danielle wanted to play hardball? She wanted to price me out of my grandchildren's lives? Fine. Let's see how she handles an audit. I picked up my phone and made 2 calls. First, to Gerald Griffin, a property attorney I'd worked with during my state auditor days. Gerald, I need a consultation. Property rights and contract law. Second, to Chris Porter, a private investigator who owed me a favor from way back. Chris, I need information, financial activity, phone records if legal, and current surveillance. Both men said they'd get back to me within 24 hours. I spent that evening looking at photos. There was one from 5 years ago, Kevin's family at Thanksgiving, Sarah still alive, all of us laughing at some joke I couldn't even remember now. Danielle had her arm around Sarah, smiling bright and genuine. Or had it been genuine? How much of what I'd seen had been real, and how much had been performance? Didn't matter now. What mattered was this. I'd spent my career following paper trails, catching people who thought they were smarter than the system. I'd put together cases that sent embezzlers to prison, that recovered millions in misappropriated funds. Danielle thought she was running a con on a grief-stricken old man. She had no idea she'd just tried to shake down an apex predator who'd been filing his claws. My phone buzzed. Text message. Danielle again. Your silence is noted, Raymond. Since you can't commit to supporting the children, I'm blocking your number. Don't contact us again. I smiled at the screen. Block me. Perfect. Let her think she'd won. Let her feel safe and superior. Because in about 2 weeks, I was going to hand her a package that would make $4,000 look like pocket change. And unlike her cruel games with children's hearts, my revenge was going to be absolutely, perfectly, legally unassailable. I set the phone down and opened my laptop. Time to start documenting everything. Time to build the case. Time to show Danielle exactly what happens when you try to audit the auditor. The game was on. She just didn't know it yet. Gerald Griffin's office was on the 5th floor of a downtown Eugene building that had seen better days. The elevator groaned on the way up, and I found myself counting the floors like I used to count evidence folders, methodically, precisely, old habits. Griffin himself was 52, silver-haired, with the kind of sharp eyes that miss nothing. We'd worked together when I was auditing state contracts, and his firm handled property disputes. He didn't waste time on pleasantries. Raymond, you said this was urgent. He gestured to the chair across from his desk. I laid out the folder. I need to know my legal position on a property transfer that was never completed. He spent 20 minutes reading through the documents, occasionally making notes. I watched his expression shift from professional interest to something sharper. Finally, he looked up. This is airtight. The deed transfer was conditional. Kevin never paid the symbolic dollar. I assume that was just an oversight, but legally it matters. More importantly, the condition about maintaining family contact. He tapped the document. That's clearly been violated. The property is still yours, Raymond, fully and completely. Even though they've been living there for 5 years? Doesn't matter. They've been living there with your permission, which you can revoke. Oregon law is clear on this. He leaned back. What are you planning? I want to know my options, all of them. Griffin laid it out piece by piece. I could evict them with 30 days' notice. I could demand payment of the outstanding transfer conditions. I could file a lien against the property for any money I'd given them, if I had documentation. The word documentation made me smile. If there's one thing an auditor has, it's documentation. There's more, I said, pulling out the promissory notes. These are loans, signed and dated. $127,000 over 5 years. His eyebrows rose. You had your own son sign promissory notes? I had anyone who borrowed money from me sign promissory notes. Family doesn't change the principal. It just changes the interest rate. These are all at 0%. Were, Griffin corrected. According to these terms, if you formally request repayment, and it's not rendered within 90 days, standard interest applies retroactively. That's aggressive, Raymond. That's thorough, I said. Can they be enforced? Absolutely. They're properly executed, witnessed, dated. Any court would uphold them. He studied me. Your daughter-in-law doesn't know about these, does she? I doubt it. Kevin signed them. Whether he told her, I shrugged. Not my problem anymore. Griffin was quiet for a moment. This feels personal. It is personal. She's trying to sell my house to cut me off from my grandchildren, after I've given them everything. I kept my voice level, but something must have shown in my face because Griffin nodded slowly. I'll draft a cease and desist on the property sale. We can file it today. As the legal owner, you have the right to prevent any sale. I'll also prepare a formal demand for loan repayment. Once she receives these, he paused, things will escalate. Good, I said. Let them escalate. I left his office with a timeline. Documents ready in 48 hours. Filed with the court within 72. The walk back to my car felt different, lighter somehow. For weeks I'd been reacting, hurt, confused, desperate. Now I was acting. There's a difference, and it changes everything. But I needed more than legal documents. I needed to know what Danielle was really planning. That's when I called Chris Porter. Chris ran a private investigation firm out of a small office near the university. We'd crossed paths during a fraud investigation in 2018, a contractor billing the state for phantom work. Chris had provided surveillance that broke the case wide open. He owed me nothing, but he was good at his job, and that's what mattered. Raymond Phillips, he said when I called. Didn't expect to hear from you again. I need surveillance and financial background on my daughter-in-law. There was a pause. Family matter? The worst kind. Come by tomorrow morning. Bring everything you have, names, addresses, known associates, financial institutions if you know them. The next morning I laid it all out for Chris in his cramped office. Photos of Danielle, the Willow Creek Road address, Kevin's employer, the partial account numbers I'd glimpsed on documents they'd left at my place months ago. Chris took notes, his expression neutral. What am I looking for specifically? He asked. Anything that doesn't add up? Large purchases, hidden accounts, evidence of plans to relocate, meeting with real estate agents? I hesitated, and whether my son knows about any of it. Chris nodded. This'll take about a week for initial findings. My rate is $150 an hour plus expenses. I wrote him a check for $3,000. Get started. While I waited for Chris and Griffin to work, Danielle made her next move. It came by certified mail, a letter from her attorney, someone named Patricia Simmons. The language was formal and cold. Ms. Danielle Phillips requests either monthly financial support of $4,000 to offset childcare and household expenses, or a formal legal agreement whereby Mr. Raymond Phillips waives all grandparental visitation rights. A response is required within 14 days. Waive my rights to my own grandchildren in writing. I read it 3 times, feeling that cold clarity settle deeper into my bones. She wasn't just greedy, she was systematic, building a paper trail to justify cutting me out completely. If I refused to pay, she'd have documentation that I'd chosen to walk away. In her version of events, she'd be protecting her children from a grandfather who wouldn't support them. Clever, manipulative, and absolutely in character. I responded through Griffin, keeping my tone neutral. Mr. Phillips is carefully considering all options and requests, an extension while he consults with family counseling resources and legal advisors. He hopes to reach an amicable resolution that prioritizes the well-being of his grandchildren. It was polite garbage that said nothing and bought me time. 3 days later, I got my first report from Chris. He sent it as a secure PDF, and I read it twice, my anger building with each line. Danielle had met with a real estate agent. Not just any agent, one specializing in quick sales and out-of-state relocations. The house had been appraised at $515,000. She'd discussed timeline, listing by the end of the month, closing within 60 days if possible. There were photos. Danielle shaking hands with the agent outside the house. Danielle in the agent's car, presumably touring comparable properties. All while Kevin was at work. But that wasn't the worst part. Chris had also pulled credit reports. Perfectly legal when you own the property someone lives in. Danielle had $18,000 in credit card debt. The charges read like a catalog of selfishness. Designer clothes, spa treatments, expensive restaurants. Recent purchases included a Louis Vuitton bag for $2,800. Meanwhile, she was demanding $4,000 a month from me for childcare expenses. I sat there staring at the numbers, remembering every time she'd complained about struggling financially, every time Kevin had apologized for not being able to afford things, all while she'd been burning through money on herself and hiding it from everyone. My son who I'd raised to be honest and responsible, who'd somehow become a stranger living in a house I paid for. married to a woman who was robbing him blind while using his children as leverage against me. The anger was cold now, controlled, precise. I called Griffin. File everything. The cease and desist on the sale, the property ownership documents, the loan repayment demands. All of it. Raymond, once we do this, there's no going back. Your relationship with your son is already gone, I said. She made sure of that. Now I'm making sure she doesn't profit from it. The next week was a masterclass in patience. While Griffin prepared the legal documents, I went about my normal routine. Grocery shopping, tending my Japanese maples in their pots on my apartment balcony, organizing my coin collection. I'd recently acquired an 1879 Morgan silver dollar, and cataloging it gave my hands something to do while my mind worked. But everything felt different now. I wasn't just passing time, I was waiting. Like an auditor waits for the perfect moment to present findings. You don't rush. You build the case piece by piece until it's unassailable. Chris sent updates every 2 days. Danielle had made 3 more trips to look at houses, all in Washington State, near Seattle. She'd opened a new bank account, one that didn't have Kevin's name on it. Small amounts were being transferred there regularly. 200 here, 300 there. Money she was hiding from her own husband. I thought about calling Kevin, warning him. But what would I say? Your wife is planning to steal your house and move your children away while hiding money from you. He wouldn't believe it. He'd tell Danielle, and I'd lose the element of surprise. No, Kevin would learn the truth, but it had to be undeniable when he did. Griffin called on a Tuesday afternoon. Documents are ready. I need you to come in and review before we file. His office conference room table was covered in papers. The cease and desist ordering Danielle to halt any sale proceedings. The formal declaration of property ownership with supporting documentation. The demand for repayment of all outstanding loans, totaling $127,000, with notice that failure to respond would trigger legal interest calculation. And finally, the notice regarding grandparental rights under Oregon law. This last one is interesting, Griffin said. Oregon has strong grandparent visitation statutes. If she tries to prevent contact with your grandchildren, you can petition the court, given that you've had an ongoing relationship with them and she's using access as financial leverage. He shook his head. No judge will side with her. Will she know that? Her attorney should tell her. But in my experience, people hear what they want to hear. She might think she can fight it. I signed everything. Griffin would file with the court that afternoon and arrange for formal service at the Willow Creek Roadhouse. Danielle would have the documents within 48 hours. One more thing, I said. I want to offer a meeting, neutral location, before this goes further. Griffin frowned. Why? Because I want to see her face when she realizes what she's done. He drafted a letter proposing a meeting at Vero Espresso House, a coffee shop downtown, to discuss potential resolution and avoid litigation. Professional, reasonable, completely misleading about my actual intentions. The next afternoon, I met with Chris Porter at his office. He had a thick folder waiting. This is everything, he said, sliding it across his desk. Financial records, surveillance photos, timeline of the real estate meetings, the hidden bank account. I also found something interesting. She's been telling people you're wealthy. What? Book club, neighborhood association meetings. She's been painting a picture of you as this rich retiree who's too selfish to help his own family. Meanwhile, he tapped the credit card statements. She's spending like she's already won the lottery. I looked through the photos. There was one of Danielle at a nail salon, another at an upscale restaurant. All recent, all while she'd been crying poverty to me. The real kicker, Chris continued, is that Kevin doesn't seem to know any of this. I followed him for a few days. His routine is work, home, kids' activities. He's not living large. He packs his lunch, drives a 7-year-old sedan. Your son's not the problem here. I'd known that deep down, but hearing it confirmed still hurt. Kevin wasn't evil. He was weak. He'd chosen peace over confrontation, his wife over his father. It was a choice, but maybe not a fair one when you're being manipulated by someone you love. What happens next? Chris asked. She gets served. Then I wait for her response. And if she doesn't respond? Then I move forward with everything. Eviction, loan collection, court petition for grandparent rights. I close the folder. She wanted to play hardball. She's about to learn I invented the game. I spent the next 2 days gathering every scrap of documentation I had. Bank statements showing transfers to Kevin and Danielle, receipts for furniture I'd bought them, the original house closing documents, copies of birthday cards I'd sent with checks inside, evidence of a grandfather who'd done nothing but try to be generous and present in his grandchildren's lives. It all went into a binder, chronological, indexed. The kind of evidence package that could survive any courtroom challenge. On Thursday evening, my phone rang. Kevin. My heart jumped. Had he been served already? Dad, his voice was strained. Danielle wants to know if you've made a decision. About? The financial arrangement. She's getting impatient. Impatient. Like I was making her wait for a restaurant table, not asking me to buy access to my own grandchildren. Tell Danielle I'm considering all my options, I said carefully. In fact, I'd like to meet with her. Face to face. There's a coffee shop downtown, Vero Espresso House. Would she be willing to discuss this like adults? I could hear murmuring in the background. Danielle's voice, sharp and quick. Then Kevin again. She says yes. When? I'll have my attorney send the details. Your attorney? Kevin sounded alarmed. Dad, why do you need an attorney? Because your wife involved hers. I'm just matching the professionalism she established. I kept my tone mild. It's nothing to worry about, son. Just proper procedure for financial discussions. After we hung up, I sat in my quiet apartment, looking at the photos of Lily and Noah on my wall, 7 and 5 years old, too young to understand what their mother was doing, too innocent to be weapons in someone's game, but that's what Danielle had made them. Weapons, leverage, price tags. I thought about the meeting to come, the envelope I'd prepared, heavy with documents, the look on Danielle's face when she opened it and realized that the rich old man she'd been trying to shake down was actually a trained auditor who'd spent 4 decades catching people exactly like her. She thought she'd won, thought she had me cornered, desperate, willing to pay anything to see my grandchildren. She had no idea she'd just tried to extort someone who'd built cases against criminals smarter and more sophisticated than her, who understood exactly how to use the legal system as a weapon, who had documentation for everything, because that's what auditors do. We document. Griffin had the envelope ready, thick manila folder, professionally sealed. Inside, every document that would destroy her plans and expose her lies, the property ownership papers, the loan agreements, the surveillance photos, the credit card statements, the court filings, everything she'd tried to hide, compiled with the precision of someone who'd spent a career making numbers tell the truth. The meeting was set for the following Tuesday. Neutral ground, public place, witnesses. I slept better that night than I had in months, because I'd learned something important during my decades as an auditor. The moment you stop reacting and start documenting is the moment you win. Danielle wanted $4,000 a month. She was about to get something much more valuable. An education in why you don't try to con someone who spent his life catching cons. And the tuition was going to cost her everything. The weekend before the scheduled meeting, my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, and for a moment I considered not answering. But then I heard it, a small voice calling through the door. Grandpa? Grandpa, are you home? Lily. I opened the door, and there they were. Both of them, Lily in her favorite purple jacket, Noah clutching a stuffed dinosaur he'd named Rex. Behind them stood Danielle, her expression carefully neutral, one manicured hand on each child's shoulder, like she was restraining them. Hi, kids, I said, my voice catching despite my best efforts to stay controlled. Grandpa! Noah started forward, but Danielle's grip tightened. He looked up at her, confused. We were in the neighborhood, Danielle said, her tone bright and artificial. The children wanted to say hello. Didn't you, sweethearts? Lily nodded, her eyes uncertain. She was old enough to sense the tension, even if she couldn't understand it. I knelt down to their level, staying in the doorway. I've missed you both so much. How's school? I lost another tooth, Noah announced, showing me the gap in his smile. The tooth fairy gave me $5. That's wonderful, buddy. I wanted to pull them into a hug, feel their small arms around my neck like I used to. But Danielle kept them just out of reach. Grandpa, why don't you come over anymore? Lily asked. Her voice was small, worried. Did we do something wrong? The question hit like a physical blow. No, sweetheart. You didn't do anything wrong. You could never do anything wrong. Lily, Noah, why don't you wait by the car for a minute? Danielle's voice had steel underneath the sweetness. Mommy needs to talk to Grandpa. The kids trudged away, looking back over their shoulders. I watched them go, memorizing every detail. The way Noah's shoes lit up when he walked, the purple ribbon in Lily's hair. Once they were out of earshot, Danielle's mask dropped. Well, have you made your decision? About what? Her eyes narrowed. Don't play games, Raymond. The financial arrangement. We discussed this. You discussed it. I'm still considering. The end of the month is in 5 days. First payment is due then. She crossed her arms. Unless you'd prefer to formalize the other option, signing away your visitation rights. I looked past her at my grandchildren waiting by her car. Noah was making his dinosaur walk along the window ledge. Lily was drawing patterns in the condensation on the glass. I'm preparing something, I said carefully. Something better than a check. Danielle actually laughed. Better than money? What could possibly be better than money? You'll see. She studied my face, trying to read me. For a moment I saw uncertainty flicker across her expression. But then the confidence returned. Whatever you're planning, it won't work. I have legal counsel. I have documentation of your refusal to support your grandchildren. If you try anything... Danielle, I interrupted quietly. I spent 43 years documenting fraud and financial misconduct. If there's one thing I know, it's how to build an airtight case. Her smile faltered, just for a second. Then she recovered. We'll see. 5 days, Raymond. After that, you won't see them at all. She turned and walked back to the car, heels clicking on the pavement. I watched her buckle the kids in, saw Noah waving at me through the window, and close the door before the emotion could break through. Inside, I stood with my back against the door, hands shaking. The cruelty of it, bringing them here, letting me see them just long enough to hurt, then taking them away again, using their innocent questions as weapons. That's when the last shred of doubt burned away. I'd been questioning whether I was doing the right thing, whether I was being too harsh, but someone who would weaponize children like that deserved everything that was coming. I called Griffin. Move up the meeting. I want it set for Tuesday. That's only 3 days away. Perfect timing then, and make sure the service is clear. This is about coming to an arrangement. Let her think she's won. The next 2 days were a blur of final preparations. Griffin reviewed every document one more time. Chris Porter delivered his final surveillance report, more photos of Danielle with the real estate agent, evidence of the hidden bank account now containing nearly $12,000 in transferred funds. I had everything printed and organized into the envelope. Property deed showing my ownership, the promissory notes totaling $127,000, the court filing preventing property sale, photos of her meetings with the realtor, her credit card statements showing the $18,000 in debt, and finally, the eviction notice, 30 days to vacate, as was my legal right as property owner. On Monday evening, Kevin called. Dad, Danielle said you agreed to meet tomorrow? That's right. She thinks you're going to give her the first check. He sounded uncomfortable. Are you? Kevin, I'm going to give her exactly what she deserves. That's all I can say. Dad, please. Whatever's happening between you two, can't we just talk it out, as a family? I tried that. She blocked my number, remember? She sent legal letters. She brought lawyers into it. I'm just playing by the rules she established. Silence. Then, she's my wife. I have to support her. Even when she's wrong? I don't know that she is wrong. Maybe we do need boundaries. Maybe... Kevin, I kept my voice level. Tomorrow you're going to learn some things. Things I wish I didn't have to show you. But you need to see them. After that, we'll talk. Really talk, okay? What things? Dad, you're scaring me. Trust me, just one more day. After we hung up, I looked at the envelope on my kitchen table. Tomorrow, at 2 in the afternoon, I'd hand it to Danielle at Vero Espresso House. A public place. Witnesses. No scene she could make without looking unhinged. I permitted myself a small smile. She'd asked what could be better than money. Tomorrow, she'd find out. She'd learn that documentation was better than money, that truth was better than money, that justice was better than money, And she'd learn it all at once, in a coffee shop, surrounded by strangers, with no escape route and no way to spin the narrative. I slept soundly that night, the sleep of someone who'd done their homework, checked their work, and knew the answers were correct. Tuesday morning, I dressed carefully. Nothing fancy. Khakis, a button-down shirt, my good jacket. I looked like what I was, a retired professional, respectable and calm. The envelope went into my leather messenger bag. At 1:30, I drove to Vero Espresso House. Arrived early, ordered a black coffee, and took a corner table with a good view of the entrance. The manila envelope sat on the table in front of me, innocuous and devastating all at once. At 1:55, Danielle walked in. She looked like she was going to a celebration. Designer jeans that probably cost more than my monthly electric bill, a silk blouse in cream, and there, slung over her shoulder like a trophy, was a Louis Vuitton bag that I recognized from Chris's surveillance photos. $2,800. Purchased 3 weeks ago while she was crying poverty. Her hair was styled perfectly, makeup flawless. She spotted me and smiled, the kind of smile a cat gives a cornered mouse. "Raymond." She slid into the chair across from me, setting her expensive bag on the table between us like a declaration of victory. "I'm glad you came to your senses." "Am I?" I took a sip of my coffee, watching her over the rim. "Well, you're here, and I assume you have something for me?" Her eyes flicked to the envelope. "Is that it?" "This is it," I confirmed. "Like I said, it's better than a check." She reached for it, but I held up a hand. "Before you open it, I want to be clear about something. Everything in here is documented, verified, and legally filed. Do you understand what that means?" Her smile faltered slightly. "What are you talking about?" "Just open it." She pulled the envelope toward her, still confident, still certain of her victory. The moment her fingers broke the seal, I felt something settle in my chest. Calm. Absolute calm. She pulled out the first document. Her eyes scanned the text, once, twice. I watched the change happen in real time, confidence draining from her face like water from a broken glass. "This is—" She looked up at me, color rising in her cheeks. "This says you own the house." "I do own the house. Always have." "The transfer was conditional. Kevin never fulfilled the conditions." "That's not— You can't—" She was shuffling through the papers now, faster, more frantic. The promissory notes, the loan repayment demands. Her hands were shaking. Then she found the surveillance photos. The color that had risen to her cheeks drained away completely. She went pale, actually pale, like someone had pulled a plug. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. "Those are you," I said helpfully, "with the real estate agent, planning to sell my house without my knowledge or consent." "You had me followed," her voice came out as a whisper. "I had my property interests protected. There's a difference." She found the credit card statements next, the hidden bank account records. Her breathing was getting faster, shallow. I could see her mind racing, trying to find an angle, a way out. "You can't do this," she finally said, her voice rising. A few people at nearby tables glanced over. "This is extortion. This is documentation." I kept my voice calm, level. "Every piece of paper in that envelope is a legal document, properly filed and executed. The court has already issued a cease and desist on any property sale. The promissory notes are valid and enforceable. The eviction notice gives you 30 days. Eviction?" The word came out strangled. "You're evicting us. Unless we come to a different arrangement. You gave me 2 options, remember? Pay or stay away. Well, I'm giving you 2 options. Repay the $127,000 you owe me with interest, or vacate my property within 30 days. Her face was doing something fascinating, cycling through emotions like a slot machine. Disbelief, rage, panic, back to rage. "You bastard!" she hissed it, leaning forward. "You manipulative, vindictive bastard! Those are my children's home." "That's my house. And regarding the children," I pulled out another document. "Oregon has strong grandparent visitation rights. If you attempt to prevent my access to Lily and Noah, I'll petition the court. Given that you've been using them as leverage for financial extortion, which is documented in your attorney's letters, I don't think a judge will be sympathetic to your position." She stared at me like she'd never seen me before. In a way, she hadn't. She'd seen a grieving old man, soft and manageable. She was looking at the auditor now, the one who'd spent 4 decades catching people smarter than her. Kevin will never forgive you for this. But her voice lacked conviction. Kevin doesn't know about your $18,000 in secret credit card debt, does he? Or the hidden bank account? Or the plan to sell the house and move to Washington without telling him? I tilted my head. The photos are all in there. Bank statements, too. I'm curious how he'll react when he sees them. Her hand, the one holding the eviction notice, was visibly trembling now. The perfectly manicured fingers couldn't quite grip the paper properly. You want to know what's really ironic? I leaned back in my chair. If you'd just let me see my grandchildren, none of this would have happened. I would have kept helping you, kept being the generous grandfather who paid for things and asked nothing in return. But you got greedy. You thought you could squeeze more out of me, and you forgot that I spent my entire career spotting people like you. People like me? Her voice was shrill now. Several nearby customers were definitely watching. People who manipulate, who lie, who use children as bargaining chips. I stood up, leaving the envelope and all its contents spread across the table in front of her. You have 2 options, Danielle. Option 1, repay the full amount owed, $127,000 within 90 days, or we set up a payment plan. Option 2, I proceed with full legal action, eviction, and collection through the courts. Either way, I'm seeing my grandchildren. Your choice is whether you do it the easy way or the hard way. Wait, she half stood, reaching out. Raymond, wait. We can talk about this. We can work something out. We just did. I picked up my coffee cup. My attorney's contact information is in the envelope. You have 48 hours to choose. After that, I proceed with option 2 automatically. I turned to walk away, and that's when I heard it, a sound that almost made me laugh. A sob. Danielle, who'd been so cold and calculating, so certain of her power, was crying. Not delicate tears, but the kind of gasping, panicked crying that comes from watching your whole plan collapse. I didn't turn around, didn't give her the satisfaction of seeing my reaction, but I'll admit, as I walked out of that coffee shop into the spring afternoon, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace, the kind that comes from setting things right, from refusing to be a victim, from using the very skills that had defined my career to protect what mattered most. My phone was ringing before I reached my car. Kevin. I let it go to voicemail. He'd call again. Danielle would tell him some version of what happened, and he'd call again. And this time, I'd answer. This time, I had documentation. Kevin called 6 times in the first hour. I let them all go to voicemail, knowing that Danielle would be spinning the story her way. I needed him to sit with whatever version she told him, let it percolate before I presented the truth. On the 7th call, I answered, Dad. His voice was rough, strained. What did you do? I protected my interests, and yours, though you don't know it yet. Danielle's hysterical. She says you're evicting us, that you're demanding money we don't have, that you had her followed like a criminal. Each accusation landed like he was reading from a script, her script. Kevin, did she show you the documents? She showed me enough. Some property claim, loan papers. Did she show you the surveillance photos? The credit card statements? The bank account you don't know about? Silence. Long enough that I thought the call had dropped. What bank account? His voice had changed. Quieter, uncertain. The one she opened 3 months ago. The one she's been transferring money to. Small amounts. 200 here, 300 there. It's up to nearly $12,000 now. That's not... Dad, you're wrong. We have a joint account. Everything's joint. Not everything. Did you know about the $18,000 in credit card debt? Or the meetings with the real estate agent? She was planning to sell the house, Kevin. My house. And move to Washington State. You're lying. But he didn't sound convinced. I have photographs, bank statements, meeting records, all in the envelope I gave her. Ask her to show you everything, not just the parts that make me look bad. I could hear something in the background, Danielle's voice, sharp and insistent. Kevin's reply was muffled, like he'd covered the phone. I have to go, he said finally. Kevin, wait. I'm not your enemy. I never was. But I won't be extorted, and I won't be cut off from my grandchildren. Those documents prove that everything I gave you was documented as loans. Everything. I have your signature on promissory notes going back 5 years. Did you tell Danielle about those? Another pause. I didn't think they mattered. You said it was just for tax purposes. It was, until she decided to weaponize my grandchildren and try to steal my property. Now they matter very much. I softened my voice. Son, I know this is hard, but you need to see all the evidence, not just what she's showing you. I'll call you back. He hung up. I made coffee and waited. It took 3 hours. When he called again, his voice was different, hollow. I saw them, the photos, the statements. A shaky breath. I didn't know, Dad, about how any of it. The debt, the account, the meetings with the realtor. She told me we were doing fine. She told me... His voice broke. My son, my 38-year-old son, was crying. Where are you? I asked. In my car. Outside. I needed air. Come to my place, right now. We'll talk. I can't. Danielle's inside with the kids. If I leave, she'll... Then meet me at Hendricks Park, the bench near the pond. You remember? Yeah. Another shaky breath. Yeah, I remember. 20 minutes later, I sat on that wooden bench where I'd pushed Noah on the swings just months ago, where I'd taught Lily to identify different types of ducks. Kevin arrived, looking 10 years older than he had the last time I'd seen him. His eyes were red, face drawn. He sat down heavily beside me. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Just watched the ducks glide across the pond. She hired an attorney, he finally said, some guy named Marcus Feldman. He looked at your documents for about 10 minutes and told her she doesn't have a legal leg to stand on. She doesn't. He said the promissory notes are ironclad. The property claim is legitimate. Even the eviction notice is valid because the property was never properly transferred. Kevin's hands twisted together. Why didn't you tell me this could happen? Because I never thought it would. The conditions were simple. Pay me $1, maintain family contact. You were supposed to do both. I never enforced them because I never needed to, until Danielle made it necessary. She said you were trying to destroy our family. She was trying to sell my house without my knowledge, move my grandchildren to another state, and cut me out of their lives unless I paid her $4,000 a month. Who's destroying the family, Kevin? He flinched. I didn't know about the $4,000. She told me it was just about healthy boundaries. Boundaries enforced with a price tag? I turned to look at him. Did you know she brought the kids to my door? Let them see me just long enough to hurt, then took them away? Used them as props in her manipulation? I was at work. His voice was barely a whisper. She told me she was taking them to the park. We sat there while the truth settled between us like sediment in water. I don't know what to do, he said finally. She's my wife, the mother of my children. She's also a liar who's been hiding debt and planning to uproot your family without consulting you. The question isn't what you owe her. It's what you owe yourself and your kids. What do you want from me, Dad? I want you to be honest about what's happening. I want you to stop letting someone manipulate you into cutting me out of my grandchildren's lives. And I want us to find a solution that doesn't involve lawyers and evictions. I paused. But that requires Danielle to be honest, too. Can she do that? Kevin's laugh was bitter. After today? I don't even know who she is. Then maybe it's time to find out. The negotiation took 3 days to arrange. Danielle's attorney, Marcus Feldman, a tired-looking man in his 50s, made it clear that his client was in a difficult position. Kevin insisted on being present. Griffin represented me. We met in Feldman's conference room. Danielle arrived last, her previous confidence completely gone. No designer bag this time. Her eyes were puffy, makeup minimal. She wouldn't look at me. Let's be clear about the situation, Griffin began, laying out documents. Mr. Phillips has legal ownership of the property at 2847 Willow Creek Road. He has documented loans totaling $127,000. He has the right to evict, the right to demand repayment, and the right to pursue collection through the courts. We understand, Feldman said. My client acknowledges the validity of these claims. Danielle's jaw tightened, but she stayed silent. However, Griffin continued, Mr. Phillips is willing to negotiate a settlement that avoids litigation and allows the family to remain in the home. Kevin leaned forward. What kind of settlement? I spoke for the first time. The debt gets restructured. You pay me $800 per month for 10 years. No interest. That's reasonable for your salary. That's generous, Feldman admitted. The house stays in my name, but you live there for $500 a month rent. That's well below market rate. Comparable homes rent for $2,200. Kevin was doing the math. 800 plus 500 is 1,300 total monthly. We can do that. There's one more condition, I said, looking directly at Danielle. I have full access to my grandchildren. Minimum 2 visits per week. No restrictions, no supervision, no manipulation. This goes into the written agreement. Danielle finally spoke. You're bribing us with our own house. No, I said calmly. I'm offering you a place to live at below market rent, while you repay money you legitimately owe me. The alternative is eviction and court-ordered debt collection with interest. Your choice. Feldman put a hand on Danielle's arm. This is a good deal. The alternative would be significantly worse. Court costs, legal fees, interest on the loans, eviction on your record. You'd be looking at paying substantially more with nowhere to live while you do it. So I just accept this? Danielle's voice rose. Accept that he's taking everything. He already has everything, Feldman said bluntly. This agreement lets you keep some of it. Kevin turned to his wife. We're taking the deal. You don't get to decide that alone. Actually, I do. My name's on the promissory notes. My name was supposed to be on the property transfer that never happened because I didn't follow through. This is my responsibility, and we're taking the deal. I'd never heard Kevin stand up to her like that. From the shock on Danielle's face, neither had she. The actual signing happened 2 days later at the office of Timothy Warren, a notary I'd worked with during my auditing days. The documents were thorough. Restructured loan repayment schedule, rental agreement, grandparental visitation rights, acknowledgement of property ownership. Danielle signed each page like she was signing her own execution warrant. Her face was a mask, no emotion visible, but I could see her hands shaking slightly as she wrote her name. Kevin signed with something that looked like relief. When it was done, Warren witnessed and notarized everything. These are now legally binding agreements, he said officially. Both parties have copies. We stood to leave. Danielle grabbed her purse and headed for the door without a word. Kevin lingered. Dad, He struggled for words. I'm sorry. For all of it. For not seeing what was happening. For letting it get this bad. You were in a difficult position. I was weak. He met my eyes. But I'm going to do better. For the kids and for us. I put a hand on his shoulder. That's all I ask. The first payment, $800. I'll bring it by this weekend. I know you will. As I drove home, I thought about what had just happened. The house was secure. The debt was being repaid. Most importantly, I had guaranteed access to Lily and Noah, written into a legal document that Danielle couldn't violate without serious consequences. It wasn't perfect. Danielle's resentment was obvious, and that tension would linger in the family. Kevin and I had a long road ahead to rebuild what we'd had. But the foundation was there now. Honest, documented, fair. My phone buzzed. A text from Kevin. Saturday at 2 p.m., bringing the kids. Lily wants to learn more chess moves. I smiled and typed back, Perfect, I'll have the board ready. For the first time in months, I felt something uncurl in my chest. Not triumph. That wasn't what this was about. It was simpler than that. It was the quiet satisfaction of knowing that sometimes, when you refuse to be a victim, when you document everything and stand your ground, justice actually happens. And the best part? I didn't have to be cruel or vindictive. I didn't have to destroy anyone. I just had to be exactly what I'd always been. Methodical, thorough, and unwilling to let someone exploit my love for my family. The auditor had done his job. Now the grandfather could do his. That first Saturday visit felt like stepping into a life I'd thought was lost forever. Kevin opened the door with both kids bouncing beside him. Lily had her chess set already out on the dining room table. Noah was waving a drawing he'd made, a picture of me with Grandpa written in wobbly letters across the top. You came! Noah launched himself at me, and I caught him, lifting him up the way I used to. Of course I came, buddy. I'll always come when you want to see me. Danielle appeared in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed. She didn't say hello, just watched us with those cold eyes, then turned and disappeared upstairs. Fine. The agreement didn't require her to be friendly, just to allow access. And she was complying. Over the next month, I fell into a routine. Twice a week, sometimes 3 times, I'd visit. We'd go to Hendricks Park, where Lily would identify birds using the field guide I'd given her. We'd hit the Science Museum downtown, where Noah could spend an hour at the dinosaur exhibit. At home, Lily and I worked through chess strategies. She'd gotten good enough to beat me occasionally, which I only let happen when she'd genuinely earned it. The change in Kevin was gradual, but real. He started calling to ask advice. Small things at first. Should he take a new position at work? How should he handle a difficult coworker? Questions that had nothing to do with Danielle or the house or the debt, but everything to do with rebuilding trust. One evening in late June, he called around 9. "Dad, can I run something by you?" "Always." "I got offered a promotion, 20% raise, but it means more travel. 2 days a week sometimes. Danielle's against it. She says it's too much time away from the kids." Old Kevin would have just declined to keep the peace. "What do you think?" "I think it's a good opportunity. The kids are in school most of the day anyway, and financially," he paused, "it would help with the payments. Make things easier." "Then take it. The kids will be fine, and Danielle's opinion isn't the only one that matters in your marriage." Silence. Then, "When did you get so direct?" "I've always been direct. You just weren't listening." He laughed. Actually laughed. "Fair point. I'll accept the promotion." "Good. And Kevin, I'm proud of you." His voice got thick. "Thanks, Dad. That means a lot." 3 weeks after the signing, I got an email from Chris Porter, the private investigator. His final report was brief. Subject has liquidated most luxury items. Louis Vuitton bag, designer shoes, jewelry all sold through consignment, hidden bank account closed, funds apparently used to pay down credit card debt. No further contact with real estate agents. Subject appears to be complying with agreement terms. I forwarded it to Griffin with a note. Case closed. His response came back immediately. "Well played." The last week of June brought something unexpected. Kevin showed up at my apartment with a box. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it." Inside were documents, all the original promissory notes from 5 years of loans, and a check for $9,600. "The first year of payments," Kevin explained. "I wanted to pay it all up front. The promotion came through, and I got a signing bonus. This is $800 a month for 12 months. I stared at the check. "Kevin, you don't have to—" "I want to. You gave us the house, Dad. The least I can do is pay back what we actually owe without making you wait 10 years. He met my eyes. "Plus, I want to show you, and myself, that I can handle my responsibilities. No more excuses. No more letting someone else make my decisions." I took the check. Not because I needed the money, but because he needed to give it. "You're becoming the man I always knew you could be," I said. "Better late than never, right?" That same week, I was at the house teaching Lily an opening gambit when I overheard Danielle on the phone in the kitchen. Her voice was low but sharp. "No, Mother, I'm not leaving him." "Yes, I know what you said, but—" "Because I can't. We signed an agreement. If I move out, we lose everything. I know it's not fair, but it's done." She hung up and noticed me in the doorway. For a moment, we just looked at each other. "You won," she said flatly. "Happy?" "I'm not unhappy," I said. "But this was never about winning, Danielle. It was about being able to see my grandchildren without being extorted. You destroyed my life." "No, I stopped you from destroying mine. There's a difference." I kept my voice level. "You could have just let me be a grandfather. Instead, you tried to monetize it. That was your choice." She turned away, but not before I saw something in her expression. Not quite remorse. Danielle wasn't built for that. But recognition, maybe. Understanding that she'd miscalculated badly. "Grandpa?" Lily appeared beside me. "Are you ready to finish our game?" "Absolutely, sweetheart." As I followed her back to the chessboard, I realized something. The victory wasn't in Danielle's defeat. It was in this, being able to walk through this house freely, to teach my granddaughter's strategy, to be present in their lives without barriers or price tags. Justice wasn't about revenge. It was about restoration. And for the first time since Sarah died, I felt like our family might actually survive this. Summer settled over Eugene like a warm blanket. July brought sunshine and clear skies, and with them came my birthday. I hadn't expected much. 69 wasn't exactly a milestone, but Kevin called 2 weeks before. "Dad, we want to do something for your birthday. Nothing fancy, just family. Backyard barbecue at the house. The house didn't sting anymore when he said it. We both knew whose name was on the deed, and we'd both made peace with it. That sounds perfect. The day arrived warm and bright. I drove to Willow Creek Road, my house where my son's family lived, and the irony wasn't lost on me. Kevin had strung up lights in the backyard. A folding table held a homemade cake that listed slightly to one side. "Lily helped decorate," Kevin said, grinning, hence the creative frosting situation. The cake was covered in enough frosting flowers to stock a garden center, applied with 7-year-old enthusiasm. "It's perfect," I said honestly. The kids ambushed me with gifts. Noah had made a pencil holder in art class, decorated with dinosaur stickers. Lily presented a handmade card. Inside, she'd drawn a chessboard with a note in careful handwriting. "Thank you for teaching me to think ahead. Love, Lily." I had to look away for a moment. Some things hit harder than others. Danielle emerged from the house carrying plates. She set them down without meeting my eyes, then retreated to a chair at the far end of the patio. Not hostile anymore, just distant, like I was a neighbor she was forced to tolerate. Honestly, it was an improvement. Kevin fired up the grill. The kids showed me their summer reading lists. Noah wanted my opinion on whether sharks or dinosaurs were cooler. I diplomatically chose both. When the food was ready, we sat around the table, a strange, fractured family finding a new shape. Kevin was more present, more himself. The kids were relaxed, happy. Danielle was quiet, but not poisonous. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. "Speech!" Kevin called out as he brought the cake over, candles lit. I'm not much for speeches. "Come on, Dad, it's your birthday." I stood looking at the faces around the table. My son, who'd finally found his backbone. My grandchildren, who'd never stopped loving me even when they didn't understand why I'd disappeared. And Danielle, who'd learned, the hard way, that some people couldn't be manipulated. "A year ago, I thought I'd lost all of this," I said. "I thought being alone was my future. But sometimes, when things fall apart, they fall into a better shape. This isn't the family we were, but it might be the family we needed to become." Kevin raised his glass of lemonade. "To new shapes." "To Grandpa," Noah added, and everyone drank. After cake, while Kevin cleaned up, I sat in the garden watching the kids play. Lily was trying to teach Noah chess on the travel set I'd brought her. He kept making the bishop hop like a knight, and she was patiently correcting him. I pulled out my phone and found the photo Chris Porter had sent me weeks ago, Danielle with the real estate agent, planning to steal my house and disappear with my grandchildren. I looked at it one more time, then deleted it. Didn't need it anymore. The point had been made. My other phone buzzed, a text from Chris. "Saw your invoice got paid, all squared up. Good luck with everything." Griffin had sent a message earlier. "Happy birthday. Enjoy your victory." But it didn't feel like victory. Not the triumphant, fist-pumping kind. It felt quieter than that. More like justice finding its level. Water settling after a storm. "Grandpa?" Lily appeared beside me. "Next week, can we play chess again?" "Absolutely, Princess." "And can you show Noah how the pieces really move? He's doing it all wrong." "I can do that." She hugged me and ran back to her brother. I watched them play, their voices bright in the summer air. From my pocket, I pulled out a small felt pouch. Inside was my newest acquisition, a 1932 Oregon commemorative quarter. Not particularly valuable in money terms, maybe $40. But it was from the year Oregon celebrated its centennial, and it had been minted right here in the state I'd lived in for 4 decades. I turned it over in my fingers. The coin itself wasn't valuable, but what it represented was. History. Permanence. The idea that some things endure beyond their immediate worth. That's what I'd fought for. Not the house. I could have bought another house. Not the money. I had enough. I'd fought for permanence. For my place in my grandchildren's lives. For the right to be their grandfather without conditions or price tags. And I'd won that fight the only way I knew how, with documentation, preparation, and the absolute refusal to be victimized. Kevin came out and sat beside me. "What are you thinking about?" I showed him the quarter. "Sarah and I found this at an estate sale. She was always better at spotting the good stuff. She'd be proud of you, you know, how you handled all this. She'd have handled it better. Maybe. But you handled it the way you needed to, and we're all still here. He gestured at the scene. Kids playing, summer evening, family together. That's what matters. Later, as the sun set and the mosquitoes started biting, we moved inside. The kids begged for one more game of chess, and I obliged. Danielle disappeared upstairs. Kevin made coffee. When it was time to leave, both kids hugged me tight. "See you Tuesday?" Lily asked. "See you Tuesday," I confirmed. Driving home, I thought about the journey from that first phone call, Danielle's cold demand for $4,000, to this moment. The fear, the anger, the methodical planning, the confrontation, the resolution. I'd learned something important. Sometimes love means setting boundaries. Sometimes protecting your family means protecting yourself first. And sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to be destroyed. The story could have ended differently. I could have paid the money, become Danielle's ATM, watched my grandchildren from a distance while she called the shots. Or I could have walked away, left Kevin to his choices, protected myself by cutting ties completely. Instead, I did what I'd spent a lifetime doing. I built a case, documented everything, and let the truth speak for itself. As I pulled into my apartment complex, I realized I was smiling. Not the grim satisfaction of revenge, just the quiet contentment of a grandfather who'd earned his place at the table. And tomorrow, I'd wake up knowing that Tuesday was coming, with chess lessons and dinosaur discussions, and a family that was broken but healing. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that's everything. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.